Hey, I'm Ollie Ferguson. I drive the number 55 Ontario Sportsman Series race car, based out of Lindsay, Ontario. You're watching ONTrack Weekly.
What's going on, everybody? Cam K with you here on ONTrack Weekly on GeForce TV. Hope you're having a great night. We're back for another Monday show and got a lot of good stuff to talk about this week. Hopefully, you're having a good week. Hopefully, we're starting off strong. Mondays are always something that, it's a little bit tougher to get going. We're going to talk racing tonight, and I want to thank Ollie Ferguson, our featured driver, for that intro. It was an old intro. He definitely has changed a little bit, but we're happy that he was contributed. We got his number 55 ride photo taken, I believe, potentially by OSR, Rob Ferguson. He has this really good glamorous shot of that 55 car with a background that it looks like a professional shoot or something like that was done. It was really cool. I didn't use that photo for this one because I would have a little lost the background, but to take a look at that number 55 for the OSS. Ollie's had a bit of a tough go the last couple months, so hopefully he's feeling better, and be very curious to see what happens for him next year. We don't really know what the plans are for him, but he had a pretty good season in the OSS, coming from 18th in the point standings in the first race of the season, getting his first win, beating Corey McAllister at Sauble Speedway in a pretty slick move, and first win at 14, youngest winner in the OSS's history, and then was able to continue on and finish 5th in the point standings despite finishing last at the biggest events at Delaware Speedway twice, and I think 3 DNFs in total. I think there was a mechanical issue at Sauble as well, and but be curious to see what happens for him this off season and what the plans are that they're going, and how's the back feeling? It's pain. I'll tell you that. Waiting on an x-ray to see what's going on with it. But it's, thank God for medication. That's all I can say, because it's been pretty brutal. But I haven't needed medication so much today, so we'll see. Probably later tonight I will. It's the discs in your back, man. It's not something to mess around with, and it's been unfortunate, but luckily we got this show and we got racing to talk about, which helps me move on and not talk so much about, yeah, I know, I know, Calvin, that the events being blank is hurtful. Well, I understand. I could very well have put some events in there, but I really like to focus on what we got here, but thank you, Darlene. Yeah, one day at a time. He said, I don't know exactly how I injured it, but it just reminds me now that I'm old. So, but you know what? That's why we're you know, we're here to put on the show and have some fun, and we'll talk about some fun stuff. Big news in terms of racing movement. I've had a lot of good people reach out so we can continue to build our movement chart. Officially separated everybody, made it a little bit nicer to follow, split it up by track. I'm not technically following dirt racing. That there's a there's a lot of more movement there, and I'm not as familiar. So, and then the one track that I don't have on here is Laird, but that's just because I'm so far removed from that division that or that track that I don't know anything about it. So, but we've got some movement that we'll talk about. Obviously some big news in terms of former champion that is switching divisions for 2025, and that I believe is a huge boost to the division that she's going to. I'm excited to see what's going to happen with that division. We've got actually another champion who's also moving divisions. And this is the type of stuff that I think keeps us interested, keeps us loving our motorsport and getting our motorsport fix is by following what's going on and who's moving where. And for the most part, I believe all these moves have been made publicly, like they've been posted on messages, or I've been sent to add onto our list, which is public. So we'll get into kind of some of the moves. We've got a lot of updates from Full Throttle in terms of people that are moving into different divisions, and it's already looking strong for 2025. Peterborough, we've got some names in there. Sunset's a little bit lower right now, just because I imagine that people will make their own announcements, and I want to make sure that I'm not posting something without people clearing it, with the most respect. Like, I don't want to announce something before somebody's put it out there. And then we've got names of racers that aren't going to be back, that'll take a bit of a break or are retiring. And there are some, but this is the type of off-season stuff that we want to try and focus on, not the fact that it is the off-season. And I know it's so easy to do that. It is very, very tough time of the year for everybody. I mean, obviously we get that extra hour of sleep, but I mean, for myself, I know that while it's an extra hour of sleep, it is also a bit of a mind mess. It's I don't personally like daylight savings, or when you have to move forward an hour, move back an hour. I don't think that we should be doing it anymore. Myself, it causes, I think, a lot more issues than it helps, really. But you know, and on days like today, I wish the track was open. You know, when you have a really tough Monday, one that's just tiring, there's no better place than the racetrack. Seeing hell, I'd go and see some guys do qualifying, put on some qualifying laps. So we'll talk about the movement. We'll talk about the big moves taking place from at least two Sunset champions that are moving divisions in 2025, and then we'll also take a look at. I put a posting up talking about underrated racing series in Ontario. I didn't get a ton of response, but we'll talk about some of those responses that we did get, and we'll talk about what people's beliefs are in terms of some divisions that. I mean, I'm not really surprised at some of the responses that we did get, more than the regular, or what was expected, I believe, and one of those divisions we talked about last week in great length. So we'll start with the big kind of news that came out this past week, which was that Amanda Balson, the 2024 Hot Rod champion for Sunset Speedway, they announced that she is going modified racing in 2025, If you know the Balsons, this is not a new thing for them. Kelly drove in the modified division in the Oscar series for many, many years, and they've acquired the old 34, which is I believe it's the super modified design, the bigger bodied 34 modified from TJ Edwards, who won the championship in both modified divisions last year. So I love this move. I absolutely think that this is a fantastic move, not just for the modifieds, but for Amanda as well. I think one of the things that has been worrisome over the past couple of years is the modified division has kind of lost a lot of people, full-time competitors, and this past year, I think it was a really tough year for them. Not just Oscar, but at Sunset Speedway in their modified division as well. While they did have some better showings, they had some better cars and a couple better compliments to the division, including like Darren Malcolm. It still was hurting. And by adding some star power like Amanda Balson, I love that's what we're going to see. I mean, the division, I was talking to Amanda about this, and she said that this is kind of what happens in motorsports a lot of the times with certain divisions, is that what happens is that they fall a little bit and they fall for a couple years and then they get built back up again. And I think the reality is setting in for a lot of people that super stocks, prolates, the cost is really expensive. And if we can find some alternatives to have people in the divisions, we talked about Andy Camrath going to, say, the Legend Car series and how that is going to boost that series as well. I mean, you look at, and the conversation as well was Sean Chenoweth. I want to see him go into a Legend Car, and Andy in the chat last week said, that's a very real possibility, because what we're seeing is these big events like the Two Speed Nationals and what is going on with them, and that's attracting us to these types of divisions. And then you have a modified division that is going through a bit of a change. I think the biggest change now is that you're going to be seeing fresh new faces. The reality is AJ Ems, who's been one of the names that's been in the division for many years, wasn't on a full-time schedule last year. Norman Newman wasn't. I don't know if he ran at all. He was there was some plans that he was going to, but he has sold, I believe, one of his mods. I don't know if he still have. I think he still has another one that he's been running down south in, but that's kind of his thing that he's been doing. And then you have TJ Edwards, who has been the champion, and he's now not going to be in that division either. So you are having a changing of the guards in Oscar and on the Sunset route as well. You have your consistency in terms of Wally Wilson. He's still hanging around. He's basically, I think he's got a ton of cars that could theoretically run. I think he told me last year he's got something like 3 or 4 mods. And I think having somebody like Colton Evering, pardon me, of course, I'm going to sneeze. Having Colton Everingham be a part of that, I personally would love to see WWR go to a 2-car operation full time. Obviously, I know like Wally will do what he can, but he ran both divisions last year, and that support you don't see it a ton in the modified division anymore. But we will have some racers coming back that have confirmed that they're back, at least in the Oscar modified side of things. I think you'll see a couple more Sunset ones as well. I hope at least that that division can be a little bit stronger. I know it's been 6 to 8 cars and not regular. It just some weeks they were able to get more than others. I hope that Tyler Liscombe modified gets out a lot more. I know that was being posted, I believe, for sale as well. So there's a lot of modifieds out there. OMRS is going through a major change for 2025. I believe I saw today people posting that it's going to have outlaw bodies. So I don't really know what that means. If that's still a modified, then if it's got an outlaw body on it, it doesn't really sound that way. The super lates as well are going to go through a big change, and we'll talk about that in terms of the second champion who is moving to another division, and that is TJ Edwards. And I did get his permission to talk about his move, and he is going to the super lates for a full campaign. And again, transitioning from different divisions is always interesting. It's always fun. I think one of the big attractiveness to NASCAR for so many years was the silly season, people moving it, and there's always somebody tracking it. And I think that's what I understand, that people might not like rumors, and they don't like that people talk about rumors. But funny enough, rumors are good for racing. If it's at least there's some positive rumors. You want to keep the conversation going, and rather than it be quiet all off season long. So we've got really good indications that some divisions once again are looking very nice for 2025. We're just getting started as well the full season isn't even over yet. So we'll go into the tracking, but I'm really excited about this move for Amanda Balson. We don't know what modified division she is going to run right now. If it's going to be Oscar, if it's going to be Sunset, if it's going to be both. But I'm excited to see this. I think you've got her, Steve Trendell, confirmed that he'll be back in the Oscar modifieds next year. Brandon Feeney has already committed to Oscar next year. So again, those are just three names that, and I think we'll add Wally Wilson in there. That's a fourth name. Guys like Chris Milwane and Dale Reinhardt, AJ Ems, we'll see kind of. Shane Pollock, we'll see kind of what happens. David Mathers is expected to be back in the Oscar modifieds as well. So I think this indicates good things, and I'm hoping that people follow Amanda into the division. As Mike Schmidt mentioned, is going to be one fast pink mod. I like new competition coming into a division, and hopefully it helps bring more people in. I think I've said it before. You add in Colton Everingham, if he can do a couple more. You add in the Tyler Liska mod if that's not sold, and there's Kyle D'Antimo, I believe it is, or Ryan D'Antimo, I believe, in the 23D. Monty Farrell, Darren Malcolm. They can have a very successful modified division. I really hope that we can. I love the mods. I really do. I'm more of a fan. I don't really like the super modified look. I love the traditional wheel and modified tour style. That's kind of my love, but it's excited. It's exciting. I really want to see a 2025 with the modifieds be as strong as possible. And I think right now the class that's hitting the market is the legend cars. I think they are the top of the line in terms of what's being attractive. But if you're looking at the bigger cars, it's the hot rods. They are the ones that are getting a ton of attention and a lot of interest. And then, of course, you can't really count out the pure stocks. Mini stocks, I think we had 40 show up for the autumn colors at each track this year. That'll be interesting. Be interesting to see how those numbers are. But the real, I think, big questions are your prolates, and your super stocks for next year. We still have a lot of cars that seem to be up for sale from last year, cars that were for sale last year that are again for sale this year. The market seems to be really tough to be selling. A lot of OMRS cars, a lot of guys that and gals that are putting up cars. In fact, Amanda Balson, if I'm not mistaken, her hot rod is still available. And if you want a top running piece that won the championship last year, that's the one to go with. I think it'll be interesting to see. I think Rob Harrison's got a ton of outlaw midgets coming in. They're going to boost their counts for next year. I'm not sure what's going on with Can-Ams. Next year, next week, actually, on Stickers and Scuffs, we'll be talking with Jeff Blackburn, very good competitor in that Can-Am division. So we'll get a kind of an update and see what's going on there for 2025. And CVMs, there's some big names coming in for that division. And then the bone stocks out at Sauble Speedway got some. Looks like they're going to have some growth for next year as well. There's movement that I think we could say that's expected. We have some confirmations from racers, so we're going to switch over to that. Now, if you have confirmation of where you are running in 2025, feel free to send me a message so I can add you on to the list. Amanda's car is still available. As Rob James mentions, I got a text from Kelly this morning. So you got to if you want a top piece, guys, this is the best car available in the hot rod division. Speaking of hot rods, I have to mention, and I don't know this driver myself, but I just want to send condolences out to Dan Archibald and his family. He posted some really sad news today, and it's not my place to share that news, but I just want to send the condolences out to Dan and his family. It doesn't matter how somebody races on the track, they're still human, and anytime somebody has something difficult going on in their life, we want to make sure that we support them through it and wish them the very best, and know that the racing community stands behind them in their tough times. And at the end of the day, competitors are competitors, but no one ever wants to see really tough news. And unfortunately, Dan did post some today, so thoughts are with him and his family, and we'll leave that at that, and just know that people are behind him. We're going to move into our movement chart. So again, everything here is subject to change. I want people to remember this. Just because I've got something on here does not mean it's set in stone. It never is in motorsports. It never is. Okay? There's always something that can happen. You could lose your partners. You could lose your job. You could lose a motor. Stuff can change all the time. When you are set to do something and potentially it changes. So we're going to start with 3 tracks. We'll go through the divisions of names that have confirmed or have posted their plans for next year. And they've either posted on my social media, so it's out there, or they've mentioned it on their own. A team has mentioned it, or they've sent it to me to add to a public list, okay? Because this list that I put out is publicly on social media. So let's start with Sunset. We'll start with Full Throttle and Peterborough. Again, this is very early. This is only November 4th, okay? And we got some people that were added today because people had reached out to have their information added to our roster list. So let me see if I can remember how to do this. Oh yeah, it wasn't that page, but that's okay. All right. So here is our movement chart. Sunset Speedway, you see their divisions up top. We've got confirmation that Ryder White is back at Sunset Speedway next year in their mini stock division. And Ben McPherson is making one of those changes that we talked about. He is going to the hot rod division from the bone stocks at Sunset Speedway. We do know of a couple other moves, but we'll wait for people to confirm those. So big news for him. Young racer in the bone stock division. He raced with Calvin a bit last year, so Calvin would know him pretty well. In the Full Throttle Motor Speedway news, you've got Steve Gunn, Alex Cole, Donna Tolton, Jason Melson, Jeff Rummel, Greg Duncan, Cooper Donaldson, Curtis Halliday, Josh Crawford, and Josh Clark already building a bone stock division. Of course, we expect the bone stocks getting a major increase in their payouts for this year. I believe it's $2,000 to win. In the hot rods, we have Nathan Detweiler back in the famous number 70 Studebaker. Nick Clark makes the move over to the hot rod division in his 86. And coming over from Sauble into the hot rod division is Jamie Adams, and she announced that earlier today. And the Thunder Truck's Tanner Holmes is going to be back in his number 5 truck. Street stocks, Andrea Clark and Greg Duncan, and I believe Duncan mentioned this last year that he was going to be going into a street stock. And in the Ontario Late Model Association, Nick Clark in the 86. Now, I thought he was going to do that this year, but it didn't work out, so we'll see what happens with him. Peterborough Speedway's OMRS, Glenn Morris is moving over from the Ontario Legends, and as he mentioned, Nick Adamson going to try and be in a bone stock at Peterborough Speedway next year. And then the Stevenson siblings of Paige and Chase Stevenson, Chase coming over from the Junior Late Model division. Dave Bragg returns in the Switch Tire number 31 to the Switch Tire mini stocks at Peterborough Speedway. Corey Horn moves over to Chuck Marsh's Renegade truck in 2025, although his team will still be running the 09 and the 99 in the bone stock division. Once they officially announce their plans, we'll put it out there. Super stocks, the Donk, Donovan Price, is back in the number 96. It'll be very nice to see him once again. And again, that's just the start of our movement charts. The next tracks are Sauble, Grand Bend, Flamborough, and Delaware. And we'll go straight into this right now. Junior late models at Sauble Speedway. Carter Camrath is going to continue. Legends is Cole Camrath running at Sauble Speedway. I'm not sure 100% if this is a Legends division, because I don't think they had the Legends division last year at Sauble. But if they are having it again this year, then Cole is going to be a part of that. The late models don't have anybody just yet. United Eights, Tanner Holmes announced he's going to come and run the truck at the beach for a bit. And in the ever-growing bone stock division, Cody Cook is going to be out there. We're not sure what car he's going to be driving just yet. But Alex Stewart and Brady Cox have announced their intentions to run at the beach in the Epic Raceware bone stock division. Savannah Finley returning in the 57, and then the CGC boys 81 and 82. Already a growth in that division for next year with what appears to be full-time competitors in Alex Stewart, Brady Cox coming in and joining that division, which is great news for them as they continue to try and build up their bone stock division. Grand Bend, we do know of some moves, but we haven't posted that yet just until we have to get clearance again from people before posting. Flamborough Speedway, Chase Mitchell and the Mitchell clan of Rachel, Rick, and Megan. All 4 cars will be back. Joining them is Haley Hill. She moves to the number 28 as Cam Thompson moves from the pure stock division to the 85 CVMs. I love this move for Cam Thompson. I really like it. This would be a good opportunity. Again, fresh blood coming into that division with Cam. He's a proven winner out at Flamborough Speedway, and it'd be nice to see some CVMs that get some fresh names in there. Delaware Speedway, we got Hannah Lamont, Jesse, and Cassie Howard back in the bone stocks. Mike Howard moves to the V8 stocks. joining Kara Martin, who returns. In the Super Stocks, Brendan Edgar and Austin Penny return. And joining them will be Michael Herniak Jr., who comes over from the Ontario Sportsman Series. And he comes over with at least, I believe it was 2 starts in that division from last year. And it is definitely going to be some really, really good fun next year for all of them, really. I think Delaware, we're probably going to see around the same numbers, but again, question marks. What's going to happen with Superstock counts? They're already starting to look good. You already got 3 people coming back, so. But I'm excited for the Herniak Hall team. They've done OSS since 2018, so they're making a big change, and it is going to be very interesting to see. I love the move for Alex Stewart and Brady Cox, because what they're doing is they're going to support a track that, is still in its infancy for its bone stock division, joining full-time competitors. Hopefully they're running for the championship this year. You got probable returns in Pat Farrow in the 08, joining them as well. I would think John Van Dyke potentially back as well. Not sure about Kyle Newmeister. He was in the battle for the points last year. Dave Middleton. We'll see what happens with that car next year as well. But Brad Holmes is putting in the efforts at Sauble Speedway for 2025. That's for sure. And the Epic race where bone stocks really turned out to be quite a good division. And you look at it, they had 6 full-time. Glenn Schmidt, Nathan Ecker, and Dave Middleton made a couple of different starts, but this is the division I think that is going to be their success story. And I think what we know is the bone stocks are the way to go in terms of building. You have already a very successful Delaware division. I'm hoping we see a bit more of guys from Delaware come on up and race at Sauble on the weekends, or Full Throttle. People from Delaware go and run Grand Bend. I think you got to do that type of stuff. Same thing with out in Sauble, Sunset, and Peterborough. I know they're not really the closest, but people going to race interchangeably on their off weekends. That's the type of stuff that helps racetracks, and what tracks really need to do is try to work together here. Try to not have conflicting dates and have divisions running on off weekends, build counts up, give opportunities for people to be able to go and race. Because what we're seeing is you're going to see people that are going to decide to go out and travel, because they're going to be able to do it and not miss the big events that they want to get to. We had a racer. We had a racer that we talked with, Mike Thompson from Flamborough Speedway, and he basically said he had to miss out on some big key events that he wanted to participate in last year, but he couldn't because they were running on the same night for points. So that's the biggest thing. We try and get people to be working together. I know it's the hardest thing to do. It really is. Because each track wants to benefit the most, but we also have talked about in the past, don't overbook the card. Let's make it reasonable, make it a 3 to 4 hour show at max, and try to get people in, get all your heats in, and you know what? Having a little bit of free time. I think that's a great idea for a race night, is having that little bit of, a free time to get the show going, or to give people a bit of a break. Obviously, I've said it before, I think having a driver who's not running that weekend, a couple of drivers from different divisions, doing autographs during the intermission, something every week, so that kids, if they're going to the racetrack every week, they're going to get something. I agree with Darlene's point here. Have races timed. You have a max. So if you've got a big event, a 100-lap feature, it cannot take more than an hour, right? Or 45 minutes or 20 minutes. That needs to happen. And that goes for heats as well. If you're having a hard time getting the heat going, max limit is like 10 minutes. And then if you don't get the laps in, you don't get the laps in. Love the idea of timed races. Again, get your crowd in, get the races going, get your victory lane stuff done, and get people home. And get people home in a reasonable hour. Let's continue on with some more movements in the Ontario racing scene. And we're going to move on to the touring divisions right now. APC and Dayco, we wait till a little bit later to find out about those. Those are typically big announcements when they happen. But we got Steve Trendell and Brandon Feeney, the Oscar mods. We did get an announcement from Mike Edsel that Austin Edsel is going to go to the Oscar Hot Rods. Tim Tolton, Kevin Trevelyan, and Nathaniel Greenaway back in the OSS, which we expect to see some changes happening in that division for this year. Ontario Legends, already confirmed. Jake Spencer-Walt, Andy Camrath, Robbie Sykes is returning as well. I expect the Ontario Legends to be huge this year. Great Lakes Legends, Cole Camrath, heading out to the Great Lakes Legends series. They are also probably going to have a pretty good year. Touring divisions continued with NASCAR Canada, and Andrew Ranger has already kind of announced that he would be back. Outlaw Midgets, Mike Homewood, and we expect Fred Homewood as well will be part of that. Can-Am Midgets. We'll find out in a little bit of time who's going to be back for them. In the Outlaw Super Lates, Ryan Dick in the 88 comes over from the Oscar mods as well. TJ Edwards, he is moving to try and win a championship in this division, and I expect it to be a very, very fun division next year. We have a TBA division. We don't really know what's happening with Bandoleros yet. They haven't made the announcement whether they're going to stay at Peterborough, whether they're going to do some traveling, whether they're going to do like a home and home between a couple of different tracks. So they're here for right now until they announce, like physically, they put out a presser that what's happening. We know at least two of the Bandolero drivers right now, Landon and Hudson Sellers, for sure going to be part of that. And the Outlaw schedule, meaning there's no set track that they're running at next year. They're not running for points. We've got Reese Bourgeois making her return in 2025, which is exciting for her. She's always a lot of fun. Retirements and year off. Carol Dawson has been long announced that she is retiring from the mini stocks out at Peterborough Speedway. Danny Benedict from the APC Late Models is retiring. Braxton Sellers, you could say he's not really retiring as a young kid, but he is not going to race next year. And then we got Keith Temple from the Legends, the Late Models at Sunset. He has also announced that he is retiring, not going to be piloting a late model next year. And one of the ones that hurts the most, because I love this car so much. I love the driver and I love the team with Scott and Ryan. CalPro Motorsports is not going to do a full season in the hot rods next year. Maybe they'll make a couple one-offs, but the Bonneville is going to be off for a year. And that hurts. I love that number 13 car. It's one of my favorites. It is... It's one of the best cars. I absolutely love the old school look of it. The fins on the back of it. And you know what? Those great guys behind that team, very, very fun, personable. They did so much for us at ACC. They had a little spot for us to leave our stuff, and they just do that out of the kindness of their hearts. They're great people, and but we know that times are tough, and it can be grinding traveling across the province for the division, and there's no harm in taking a year off and building back a better, stronger program for next year. And Calvin Reeser says dream year it would be Pete and Sunset Bone Stocks run opposite weekends. He'd run both. There you go. This is the type of opportunities that, we would cherish. Absolutely cherish. I have to show you this one as well, guys, because Rob sent me the photo that I was talking about Ollie's car. I don't know how this was done, but it is a beautiful shot. Look at this. Isn't that beautiful? I mean, promo-wise, that's what you need on a hero card. Absolutely beautiful. My type of promo shot. That's for sure. Now, I pose the question and put it out there that, there's divisions that we know of across Ontario. We talk about the Legends. We talk about OSS. We've talked about OMRS, Outlaw Midgets, Can-Am Midgets, Pro Challenge. What was an underrated Ontario Touring Series in 2024? So Jay Frederick starts us off with the new Miata Canada Cup. Had an amazing turnout, which was some of the greatest racing to watch. I don't know much about that one myself. Rory Markle says, Super Outlaws, fantastic show at Flamborough. Nathaniel Greenaway mentions any touring series that's not APC is underrated, which is, true. APC is in NASCAR Canada are kind of the top touring divisions. Every series offers great racing depending on what track it's running at. Ryan Lusk says, I might be biased, but Outlaw Midgets, these cars go over 100 kilometers an hour with no suspension. Not to mention the selection of tracks they race at. They are usually the ones who get their races cut short if the promoters are running low on time. Yeah, that does tend to happen. And then we have the race director for the Great Lakes Legends saying, when the Legends get together and have 36 cars show up, proud of the series run together. And Austin Arnell, the Great Lakes Legends champion, says he's got a second Gen Hatch. The Legends put on some fantastic racing this year with solo and combined events. The surge of cars the last 2 years with more and more people joining the series for 2025. And I think there's no debating this, that the Legends division, we talked about this last week, are on the rise, very much on the rise. And it's going to be a very interesting year to see who else potentially can go into this division. I mean, there's a lot of young racers out there, and I think the natural progression for young racers should be to follow the INEX, pattern. Start off, I've said it before. I truly believe that the junior late models can be a starting for any young kid, and then you go to a Bandolero, and then you go to a Legend car, then you can go up to a bone stock or a mini stock, then you go up. I think, again, not just from a cost standpoint, but functionality. I mean, getting the opportunity to race in other provinces, and or you can go out west or out to the Atlantic provinces and race a Bandolero, because at Sutherland they have Bandoleros. At I believe Oyster Bed they have Bandolero. Maybe not Oyster Bed, but I know in the Maritimes they have Bandoleros as well. But not only that, you can also go and race in Charlotte if you really wanted to. Same with the Legend cars. There's the attractiveness of those divisions, the competition level. If you got a guy like Andy Kamarath coming into this division, it tells you you're doing something right. And guys that maybe, I would love it if we got to a point where, I mean, they do kind of still do the the Masters division and the Young Lions. I would personally say that if they get the projection that it would appear they're going, it very well, you could have upwards of 50 cars for their major events. I mean, you had close to 40 last year, and when they did combined events. Rob James says, overall, the Legends series has the best car counts, great tech, and well organized. They would be my number one in Ontario. It'd be hard not to disagree with that, or hard to disagree with that. It's been very evident. The diversity of being able to run a Legends car is at so many places makes them a very attractive investment. Can you imagine getting to be able to do that? I said it last week, and I still think that the big attractive for a young racer to go and be able to run potentially the summer shootout series at Charlotte Motor Speedway or at Atlanta Motor Speedway or multiple tracks in the U.S. It's been done. We've seen Parker Traves do it. Matt Hoff, I believe, Kevin Foisey has done it. Mitch Wright has done it. I think Jade Franklin may have done it as well. Rob James can probably confirm that. I think Jade ran down south. Maybe it was one of the Latimers, but it is something that provides longevity in motorsports as well, because the cost isn't insane. The parts come from INEX. You've got somebody who's in charge that has a relationship with INEX. Now you have the Bandoleros as well. So there's a steady progression here. You can move from division to division. One of the things we talked about is a ladder system, and ladder systems, if you look at the IndyCar ladder system, okay, that has proven to be a very successful project. We're having Jade and Latimer do run in the US. Okay, there we go. Thanks, Rob. That's been proven to be a very successful system where you start off with the USF 2000 series or US, the whatever it was, I believe it's the USF 2000, Pro 2000, NXT, and then IndyCar. You have a steady progression. And they also have their juniors now. They have their junior divisions before all of that. IndyCar is now proving to be a stepping stone into potentially higher formula divisions. You're getting guys that have attractive, that are attracting like Formula One or F4 or Formula E teams. So that system works. So having one on our side, making it, listen, we've had one of the most productive years for our young racers in the U.S. than I think we've ever seen. Trayton Lapsovich, Kyle Steckley, Chase Pinsino have been lights out this year. Been very impressive, and they're really all just starting their time in the U.S. I think the way that, we know that we have talent here. We have lots of talented racers, but you can't tell me that you wouldn't want to see a Jake Spencer-Walt and Andy Camrath go and run the big Legends race during the IWK 250 weekend at Riverside Speedway. I think that's a wicked idea. You could literally have a provincial group go and compete. It's not super stock and it's not a late model, but having a group of racers come down, like say JDC Motorsports takes Dawson Jeremy, Caleb Jeremy, Keaton Pipe, and then you have Matt Boys, Latimer, both Latimers, Jade Franklin, they all go as well. You have like 10 or 12 legend guys run the IWX weekend and put on a show. You got guys like Mitch Wright who goes down to Atlanta and he goes and he wins. So now all of a sudden, if you start putting younger names in there, let's talk like you got names like Mason Culver. We don't know what he's going to do next year. Austin Arnell, who's already in the division. A kid who I think is going to be really good, Del Freiberger. Hell, I'd put even Ollie Ferguson, I mentioned at the beginning. I know he's running big stock cars, which is a little bit different, but all of them you put in these cars and they could go and run at any of these tracks. You know, I don't even know if I can consider Legends going to be underrated, because I think what we saw last year is when you have these big divisional races like the two-speed nationals, it is extremely attractive. And my hope is that we don't just have two-speed next year. We have some bigger corporations that want to get involved in the Legends divisions. You know, I remember back in the Summer Shootout Series that the Young Lions and the Masters divisions were separate divisions. And they could get to a point where they do something like that. If they have 40 cars showing up each week, you do 20 Young Gun cars in a race and 20 Masters in a race. I mean, the possibilities, man, they are so good. And it is one of those things that you look at the junior late models, you can't take them out of Ontario. So are they eventually going to be phased out? Hopefully not. I do still like the cars. I think they are good for the younger racers, but I do worry, like I mentioned before, about the travel on those cars, the up and down over the bumps. The Bandoleros having suspension is an attractive feature. But man, we have it good right now. We have some really good opportunities for racers. We have some really good opportunities for people getting into motorsports to start off in a car that won't break the bank for them, that they can run at multiple places. And the biggest thing that I think about the Legend cars right now is that they could put on one hell of like an all-star event. So I know we talked about, and Delaware really wanted to do the Legend series last year, and it didn't take off, unfortunately. It was supposed to be done with super stocks, and it unfortunately didn't happen. But I wouldn't mind seeing somebody try that with the Legend cars. I think you could get literally the Legend series with the Legend cars. Whether you do it at Sauble Speedway for like the two-speed nationals again, you know, put a couple of legendary champions, put like Mark Dilley and Corey McAllister, and let's say I don't know, Dale Shaw, Kyle Steckley, Caden Lapsevich. You know, try and get some names from all over the place to go and compete in something like that. It doesn't have to be like 35 Legends. You can have 10 Legend cars and put on a big show like that. I think that you can have a Legend car that has like a quote celebrity racer in it each week, an attractive name from local. And I thought about this for OSS in the past too, is having that local talent that gets an opportunity to run with a headlining division. And I would think that Legends are going to be looking to be a leading division in terms of the show week to week now. And as Jeff mentions, that they run asphalt ovals, dirt ovals, road courses. They also run outside, and they run road courses as well overseas. I've seen a couple of those races in Great Britain with them on road courses. And yes, absolutely, Calvin, like the SRX series. I think that can be a very attractive thing for people. Putting in names of the past, and then afterwards you get a big event for the future racers in the Legend cars. And I think that there's a lot of potential there, and it's just from a cost standpoint and a doability really right now. You've got two divisions that play well together in Great Lakes and in Ontario Legends. And this is what I'm saying, is that when you work together, look what can come out of it. So, while we put them in, people mention them as an underrated series. I'd have to say that I think right now they're starting to have that momentum where they're not underrated. They're a serious contender right now for a very interesting division for next year. I do think that, yeah, having potentially maybe a division for those that are really inexperienced might be something that's a possibility. Because I think the Young Lions and the Masters could even theoretically be separated, but it'll be fun. It'll be absolutely fun. But we've reached our time for this week, everybody. It was a great conversation here on ONTrack Weekly. Make sure you press that like button. Tune in for Race Rivals Race Chat with Adam Ross, Clinton Jeffrey, and stay with us all off season long. We'll be here on ONTrack Weekly every week talking about motorsports in Ontario. And I really appreciate you guys being a part of things, and we definitely want to continue to grow this and talk about our Ontario motorsports scene. Jeff just sent me a personal DM on Facebook. All right, and I definitely want to thank you guys for tuning in. Like I said, like that like button. It helps us out here on the channel. We're trying to get to 20,000 subscribers. Still at 19.4, so help us out. But that's it for me this week, everybody. Have yourself a great week. We'll chat with you next week on ONTrack Weekly.